DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a Final Four. UConn, Purdue, NC State, and Alabama have all made it. My name is Rob Dosser. I'm joined by John Fanta, and I am joined by the father of viral sensation. Have you seen this video yet, Fanta?
Seen it. I shared it.
All right.
Absolutely. I've seen it, of course. Damon Oglesby, we are not worthy.
Tio, talk about what happened with your man Damon and why he is now a viral internet superstar.
So people who don't know, I do work for the Charlotte Hornets with their analyst spot for their, pre and post game stuff. And the first time all year I asked him, I was like, hey, look, is it okay if I bring my son Damon to watch the Warriors play? Because his birthday's on Saturday. They play on Friday. And I think he's going to have a good time. Well, I brought Damon out to half court when Steph Curry was warming up. And Brandon Miller had just got done warming up. So he got to say hello to Brandon, got to say hello to Chris Paul, had to go up and set up. And then we came back down for when Steph was warming up. And guys, this is a spectacle. When Steph Curry warms up, he's shooting from half court. He's doing all these amazing ball handling drills, like high level stuff, fun stuff. Well, whenever he was doing his high pick and roll stuff, my son Damon was mimicking what Steph Curry was doing move for move. And whenever he was doing it, little did I know there was a guy across a court that was filming him, and it was pretty much identical to what Steph was doing. And he posted it. And then when he posted it, Bleacher Report picked it up. And now Damon's got 30,000 likes on Bleacher Report of mimicking Steph Curry, which was pretty cool. Which was cool for me because too, I work with Del Curry, and Del's like the nicest guy of all time. So he had Seth, who's with the Hornets now, and Steph playing in the building. And I was joking around saying it was bring your son to work day. So then my son's mimicking his son, which I thought was really cool. So it was a big moment for me as a father. And it just happened to go viral on the other side. So that was pretty neat.
That's great.
It was fun. Big Dame getting buckets.
Big Dame.
You're now not the most famous person in your family.
Yeah, I know. No doubt. The cool part was I also took him out to watch Brandon Miller warm up.
Yeah.
And Brandon came in. We're sitting there watching. He said, good job. Every time he'd make my son be like, good shot, Brandon. Brandon goes to shoot free throws, throws Damon a ball. Damon throws it back. He throws it back to Damon. Damon goes and gets shots up in warm-ups.
Wow.
So really cool. Really, really cool. There's perks to these jobs, guys, as you know.
Yes.
That is far and away the coolest one for me. Far and away.
Really awesome.
Yes, there are. All right, let's we got about 45 minutes here to kind of roll through all this. So let's get to the Final Four. It is officially here. We have UConn and Alabama on one side of the bracket. We have Purdue and NC State on the other side of the bracket. Tio, let's start with you. I want to talk about Purdue first because I think that is the one where we were all kind of hoping that they would find a way to be able to get this thing done, right? For Matt Painter, for Zach Edey, for all the guys that dealt with losing to a 16 seed last year. Now that they are there, coming off of a 40.16 rebound performance from Zach Edey, what's your take? Purdue finally getting the job done.
I think when Zach Edey and DJ Burns collide, there might be an earthquake in Phoenix. That's takeaway number one. Takeaway number two is good for Purdue. It's like that monkey's finally off their back. Mac Painter and you guys posted, Field 68 posted a thing of when Hummel got emotional. Hummel's not an emotional guy when it comes to that stuff. He's pretty direct, tells great stories, doesn't get overly emotional. And for him to hear him kind of get emotional, Painter get emotional, and then Zach Edey obviously is fired up. I mean, good for them. And what a cool story for them to finally get there. We all expected it, sure, but sometimes you just got to hang around long enough for it to finally happen. Ask Clemson, ask Alabama, ask Nate Oates. Like, if you hang around long enough, you're eventually going to make a run, and good on them to be able to do that. Really fun. I didn't get to watch the entirety of the game. I watched bits and pieces because I was driving back down to Charlotte. But as I was listening to it, Zach Edey dominant, and that's against a Tennessee team that made it a game. Every bit and piece almost down to the end, at least for the first 38 minutes. So A lot of fun. Congratulations to them. And I'm almost bummed because I felt like Tennessee kind of deserved a Final Four spot too. They just happen to be in the same bracket as Purdue, and you're just not going to beat Purdue.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that when we talk about Rick Barnes and his legacy, at the end of the day, the fact that he ran into Purdue here, they were deserving of a slot. When I power ranked the Sweet 16 last week, Tennessee was in my top 5, but the problem was Purdue was also in the top 5. So there's no doubting that. To me, guys, I just don't think that we can say enough about the fact that for just the second time since 1968, the only other time being Bo Kimball in 1990, we watched a player put up at least 40 points and 15 rebounds in an NCAA tournament game. And the fact that the best player in this sport, how many Heisman Trophy winners have flopped under the bright lights? How many great players, MVPs, have not been able to do it when it matters most because the opposing team is so fueled to stop them?
Yep.
What we're watching right now is as great of a 2-year run in college basketball as you are going to find from a single person and player. And what we're watching right now is a program in Purdue get a long overdue moment of total nirvana. This fan base was the butt of all jokes last year. Mm-hmm. Even this year, every time we've talked about Purdue, we're still getting it. And to those people, I say, I will not give you the time of day in Phoenix, Arizona. Because if you are critical of this, you aren't a happy person. This is an amazing story, and it's Zach Edey, who is the first Division I player to lead the country in scoring and be in a Final Four since Oscar Robertson. When you say Oscar Robertson, the Big O's name to anybody, and he's the only guy who's accomplished something, any person, old school, new school, whoever you are as a basketball fan, your eyes are going to light up a little bit because that's how much that guy's respected. He's got statues, multiple statues. I just think that yesterday was powerful. It was emotional. It's why we love March. And good for Matt Painter, good for Zach Edey, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and Robbie Hummel, and everybody else in that Purdue alumni base. You deserve this. Boiler up.
The funniest thing is that Purdue still has a chance to lose to a double-digit seed. I don't think that they're going to. I do think that NC State is built in a way that could give them some problems. They have a big fella inside. They have 3 big guys to rotate through on Zach Edey, and they have guards that can kind of put a little bit of pressure on you. I just don't think that they have the horses necessarily to beat Purdue, but please don't let that happen, Purdue. Please don't lose to NC State because you will never, ever, ever, ever hear the end of it. I want to talk about the fouls. I want to talk about the people that are whining about Zach Edey getting a fair whistle. You are talking about a guy that is 7'4" and 300 pounds. You are talking about a player that is as coordinated and fluid of an athlete as you're going to find for somebody that size anywhere on the planet, right? And you're talking about a team whose entire offensive concept is we'll throw the ball into the post, and if you guard him one-on-one, we're going to make you foul him or he's going to get a bucket, right? That is their entire offensive philosophy. And what Tennessee did was they decided to try to guard him one-on-one. And every time you throw the ball into him, he is going straight through your chest, and you're going to have to foul him or you're going to be giving up a layup.
Right.
Whereas Tennessee on the other end of the floor, and Tennessee, by the way, one of the most physical teams in college basketball. You can
Maybe
call 25
most.
fouls. Yeah, you can call 25 fouls on them every single game, regardless of whether or not they are playing Zach Edey. Tennessee on the other end ran everything through a guy in Dalton Connect, whose game is built around getting jump shots, right? Sometimes it's in the mid-range, sometimes it's spotting up for 3. So when you have one team who's throwing the ball into the post to someone that's taking 21 shots and getting 22 foul shots, getting to the line 22 times, he's going to get a lot more fouls than the dude that took 31 shots taking jumpers. That's how basketball works. So stop whining about the fouls. There is not some grand conspiracy to try to get Zach Edey back to the Final Four. If there was, then Purdue would not have lost to mid-majors in each of the last 3 years. This is the way that they play. It just when you say, sorry, Fanta, but just when anybody says Like Purdue is unfairly officiated. Zach Edey is unfairly officiated. Purdue shouldn't be getting all these fouls. I immediately know you don't know ball, and I stopped respecting anything that you have to say about basketball. Point blank. Period. It's ridiculous. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, and you know, I would just say that I don't want this to become like I do think other people are going to try to jump into this. We aren't going to be giving these people the time of day on our shows this week. I mean, that's just not doing segments on telling people why they're wrong because it's just silly. Like you don't deserve the air. Okay, if you're going to be hating on this kid right now, yeah, I said it. You don't deserve to be breathing. I mean, forget it. Like this is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I never heard in my life a kid get criticized this much. Like, let's just move on and talk about the greatness of these teams. I mean, here's the thing. How many times in the last 20 years, nor alone in the history of this tournament, do you actually see an opportunity when the Final Four starts for the best two teams all season to then meet for the national championship? Not often in this sport, and that's my takeaway on this Final Four, fellas. We've been talking about UConn and Purdue for months. When we get to the tournament, people are often like, everything you talked about's wrong. No, these two teams have been the best in the country. If they meet next Monday night, I don't know, I'm going to feel validated because it feels like we know these teams front and back because we've been covering them. Now, if we don't see that matchup, it means that Final Four Saturday delivered an all-time shocker.
Yep. Another thing too is to go back on the foul situation. Like, guys, he's bigger. Have you guys ever watched a high school game when there's one 7-foot kid out there and everybody else is 6 foot? That kid's going to get the most fouls, or he's going to walk away bleeding. And here's the thing: Zach Edey gets both. He's bigger. You can't punish a guy for being bigger than everybody else. He's bigger. You don't have anybody to match up with him. Quit complaining. Here's the thing: I grew up in Knoxville, right outside of it. Guys, I understand your passion. I'm happy that you're there, and Tennessee's become a great place as far as fans are concerned. There's just not a whole lot of answers for Zach Edey because he's 7 foot, he moves his feet, and he plays straight up. He plays straight. He moves his feet. He gets a wide base, and his hands are straight up in the air. He doesn't foul, and he doesn't put himself in position to foul. Somebody showed a clip the other day on Twitter. I can't remember who it was, but they're talking about, well, he doesn't foul because he realizes if he's out of position, he doesn't go for the block shot. He's gotten better at that. And like Zach Edey, man, he's smart. He's huge. He plays really well. And he shoots free throws, dude. He's that good and he's that dominant and he deserves the credit. And sometimes you're just not as big as the other guy. And for the first time all season, besides the time they played Purdue earlier in Maui, Tennessee wasn't bigger and they weren't stronger and they weren't faster than the team they were playing. Sorry, guys. That's just what happened.
It is. It is what it is, man. Yep. All right, real quick before we get into UConn, we are presented by BetMGM. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app, sign up using the bonus code FIELD, deposit $10 and place your first wager on any game and you will get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. If your bet loses, just make sure you use that code FIELD. And we do have some fun stuff coming up for the Final Four: bet insurance tokens, college hoops odd boosts, and parlay boosts. Who doesn't love a nice parlay boost? We also have a ridiculous array of prop bets for anything you could possibly imagine betting on in the Final Four. So go download the BetMGM app today and use that code FIELD when you sign up. Vanna, we saw it. We sat courtside. We watched UConn put a 30-0 run on Illinois. I haven't had a chance to really talk to you about this since it happened. He ditched us, T.O. He was going to be on the show on Saturday, and he decided it's much more important for me to go spend Easter with my family than hang out with Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster until 1 o'clock in the morning at TD Garden Arena in Boston.
Two straight nights.
Unbelievable, Fanta. Unbelievable. No, it's I'm kidding. Let's talk about UConn. Let's talk about that run. Let's talk about what they did to Illinois. Let's talk about that performance because I can't remember. I was going to say I can't remember a more dominant performance from a big guy. But I mean, Zach Edey did it offensively. Donovan Clingan did it defensively. Look, you have two forces of nature coming. Are they going to meet in the Final Four? Who knows? We'll see. Talk about UConn, Fanta.
Well, they are inching closer to being in the ranks of the greatest teams of all time.
Yeah.
because when you're winning your NCAA tournament games by an average of 28 points and you've been up by at least 30 in each of these games, they're playing a different sport. They're playing a different sport. The take last week about the fact that they could, compete in the NBA or whatnot, that was off base and ridiculous. However, they are not an NBA team, but they play like a semi-pro team. They're otherworldly in how they play. I mean, they're when everybody's zigging, they're zagging. They went on a 30-0 run in the game, and in the 25-0 run out of the second half to start the second half, they hit 1 3-pointer.
Mhm.
One.
Yeah.
Like, they're not hitting 3 or 4 threes to then get on this run. You think when a team goes on a big run, they get hot from downtown.
That
They
wasn't
just
really what
start-
happened.
That's not what happened.
No.
They dominated a Big Ten team physically. They attacked the basket at will. They sucked the will out of a team that was on a mission and had the hottest scoring player in the tournament. Do you know how much that takes to make a team submit? To literally stranglehold a team and get them to bow out by submission. That's what happened on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Illinois called not 1, but 2 timeouts in 90 seconds. And then when UConn's run kept going in the next 90 seconds, you could feel on the other side this sense of defeat. Tristan Newton did not make a shot. Stefan Castle made 1. How did they win by 25? They won by 25 because their big man, you can talk about players who might have had a better season. And Zach Edey fits both of these, what I'm about to say. You could talk about a player who scores the ball more explosively. You could talk about a player who's been more consistent from game to game. But you cannot speak about value and not acknowledge the value of Donovan Clingan to this UConn team. Because defensively, he is a menace. He is an elite rim protector. That's how he's going to get paid. And guys, I thought on Saturday, he showed his wide array of what he can be on the offensive end of the floor. That was extremely impressive. And absolutely, it feels like going to Phoenix. This is UConn's to lose.
Guys, we've said it, Rob, I think you said this last time. What was it? Death by 1,000 cuts?
Yeah.
It's incredible watching this team play. And their offense is so long-winded. Like, they'll run some plays that by the nature of their design goes to the third side of the offense, and they just end up with an open shot. It's unbelievable. They're defensively, they're nuts good. And then on top of that, when you have 2 guards that shoot the percentages that they do, you have to take care of them. And even when they're not shooting, they still command that type of gravity. So it's like Samson Johnson came in, gave good minutes. Like, it's their competitive nature, their will, Caravan knocking down shots and making things happen. I think what's crazy for me about Caravan is, like, not a great athlete. But I'm relatively speaking, guys, before UConn fans jump down my throat, relatively speaking, not a terrific athlete, but, like, it just does all the right things. And that could be said for several of their players. And then you add in elite athleticism with Johnson, and I would consider Kling an elite athlete for his size. And then it's unbelievable what they were able to do. They just beat them badly. They just beat them, like, one thing after another. They threw an extra body. They recover so quickly. They know their rotations better than anybody else. They're lovable maniacs, every one of them. Like, Dan Hurley's a maniac. I love Dan Hurley. The same with Cam Spencer. Like, it's unbelievable. Well, did you guys see Caravan talking about how Cam Spencer won't go in their room without yelling at him?
Yeah, I was right there. We were like, when that, I think, was it you that asked him the question, Fanta? I think it was you that asked him that question.
Yeah. I mean, like, that is unbelievable. And you want to talk about a playing for a coach that's a mirror image of you?
Oh, yeah.
or coaching a guy who's a mirror image of you? My God. I mean,
here's what it is.
they go through and if they go through and they win this, I would consider them a top. They got to be a top 5 or 10 team of all time.
It's hard to do that because you can't really compare eras, right? Like if you look at
but I mean, they're winning games in the tournament by 28 points a game.
Yeah.
Exactly. What else can they do to be in that conversation? If you're going to say it, then you're a hater of the old, or then you're a hater of the new style of basketball.
When you compare comparatively to what they are playing against, is like they're as dominant as any team that we've seen in this last 2-year run as any team ever. But I just don't think it's fair to compare a team that had like Rip Hamilton junior year to a team that has like Cam Spencer. You know what I mean? Like it's there's a reason why I mentioned him to you. It's very like the 2004 team that won the title had junior year Emeka Okafor, who was the number 2 pick, and junior year Ben Gordon, who was the number 3 pick. And comparing, like, you just can't. I don't think you can compare across eras like that. You can compare how dominant they are. Anyway, I think what makes them so good is that they are the only team in the country that has 5 and maybe 6 guys that can go out and win you a game. If you want to throw a Sandiar into that conversation, when Steph Castle is your 5th best starter, right? And he's a guy who in the Sweet 16 can go get you 14 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, who doesn't give a shit about scoring, who is perfectly happy being the guy who is solely tasked with stopping Terrence Shannon defensively. When that is your 5th best player, like, what are we even talking about here, right? Like, compare that to what Purdue has, where Trey Kaufman-Wren or Mason Gillis is the number 5 guy in your roster. Compare that to Illinois, who basically has 3 starters and then 2 guys that are just kind of there to do a job, right? Ty Rogers starts for them. Luke Goody plays a lot of minutes for them. All due respect to those guys, they're great role players, but they can't win you a game. UConn's got 5 dudes that can go out there and win you a game with different jobs and different roles. And I don't know what you do with that, right? Like
Ty Rogers, they were just sitting in the lane.
Yes. Yeah. So like here's the thing. Like here's the thing with here's the thing with UConn is that what do you try to take away first? You know, when you're going up, let's just talk about Illinois, right? When you're going up in Illinois against Illinois, it's all right. We have to make it difficult for Terrence Shannon. We can't let him get downhill. And when he does, we have to make sure that we have help at the rim, right? That's basically your game plan for Illinois. And then you say, we got to have an extra body to throw out Marcus Domask if one of our guards can't handle him in the post. And then you just kind of have to keep somebody on Coleman Hawkins. Don't let him get going. And then beyond that, it's like, don't help off of Luke Goody, help off of Ty Rogers. Like you basically have 3 guys you have to game plan for. When it comes to UConn, you can try to take away Donovan Clingan, but then that's going to leave somebody open. You can try to take away Tristan Newton, is going to leave somebody open. You can try to take away Cam Spencer, is going to leave somebody open. You can try to take away the stuff that they run. They have so many counters, it may not matter. I don't know what you do to try to stop them. You know, there's always going to be a weapon that you're going to have to leave somebody open, more or less, right? You're going to have to let them have something, and they have 5 different guys that can beat you. It's just, I don't know what you do. What do you like, TL? What do you do with that? I don't know what you do.
You just hope you're disciplined enough to stay in front when you play against those guys. You're disciplined enough to stay in front, and you hope you have one matchup that you can just milk and force rotation. Mm-hmm. That's what you hope you do. And guys, I'm going to say it again, but Alabama fans have been crushing me. By the way, they give Providence fans a run for their money just as far as spite. Now, their arguments are pretty stupid. Be honest with you. They don't even come at you with logic. You're stupid. I'm like, dude, you're terrible at your job. I'm like, hey, dude, man, I don't come to your fucking work and throw rocks at you while you're mowing, you prick. I don't say all that shit. But here's the thing too, like like Providence fans at least come back at you with some kind of like respectful banter. Like not even respectful. It's not respectful at all, but like at least basketball banter. Alabama fans don't know what they're talking about, so they just call you stupid. So anyway, but here's the thing, like the only team that I think has kind of like that kingpin to where it would force rotations is Purdue. And if you're able to see them go in the finals, I think you're going to see the best 2 teams in college basketball, which is what we always want in the national championship game. Great runs by Alabama, happy for Nate Oates. Great run by NC State, happy for Kevin Keats. But you hope that you get the best 2 teams, and by and large, all season long, it's been Purdue and it's been UConn, and I think it's everybody else, and it's been that way all year long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't disagree at all. And for Alabama, to be going to the Final Four for the first time in school history. Like that's what I want to focus on for just a moment.
Yeah.
We'll get to Alabama in 1 second, Fanta. Before we do, whether you're a world-class athlete like me or a podcaster like Terrence Oglesby, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. After a 6-month season loaded with cross-country travel, I can promise you that proper recovery is a priority for me these days. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Field of 68. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by the Energy Enhancement System, or the EE system. If you haven't heard of the EE system yet, you're going to want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New Jersey like me or at the hundreds of other locations across the country where there are Unified Healing centers, access is easy and affordable. If you're interested in experiencing the EE system technology for yourself, go to unifydhealing.com/unified68. That is UNIFYD healing.com/UNIFYD68. No material testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare system, including the EE system. I rolled through that one. Fanta, go ahead. Let's talk about Alabama. Let's talk about Nate Oates. Let's talk about the Tide. I don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide.
Heck of a story. I mean, Nate Oates was a high school coach just a little over a decade ago.
Yeah. Hot Cheetos.
Teaching math.
Hey, how about this? How about this? Nate Oates was a high school coach 11 years ago. Dan Hurley was a high school coach 14 years ago. You know what this means? Bucky McMillan in 8 years is going to the Final Four. Lock it in.
Watch, it'll happen. It's like a Simpsons episode. I mean, I think that what Nate and Alabama have built is an example that if you've never been to something, right? Same thing with Purdue. Same thing with NC State for that matter. This is why this sport's so great. The variance level. You can build it. You can build it. You know, they brought in Aaron Estrada from Hofstra. They brought in Grant Nelson from North Dakota State. They have identified portal players who obviously have done great things for them, you know, off the bench on Saturday night. Look at Jaron Stevenson.
Man, he was awesome.
He was outstanding. A guy averaging 5 points per game that's 19 and hits 5 threes. Why? Why does that happen? How does that happen? It happens based on your identity. They have a very effective culture and identity to play for. You want to be a part of Alabama basketball now, if you're a player, because why? You're going to launch shots. You're going to have a green light. You're going to play with tempo. It's fun. And Nate has done an incredible job this season at two things. Number one, staying composed during a rough non-conference. He challenged himself. He is here right now because of that.
Yep.
They are battle-tested. When they entered the tournament, you could stack them against anybody, and you would not say that somebody is more battle-tested than they are after who they played in their out-of-league. And number two, I think playing off of Mark Sears, determining that Mark Sears was an All-American and that he's going to be, you know, the best player for you every time, but then recognizing that Nick Pringle is going to be really important in this equation. The way, T.O., that they play their bigs in their system makes it really difficult to defend them because they just have such a versatility, such a tempo about how they play. And you know what else they do a great job of? Like, you could play fast. Teams play fast, but that doesn't mean you're playing well. They share it. They play with purpose. 20 assists on 29 makes against Clemson. And you know what? I don't see them beating Connecticut, but they do play a way and a style that allows them to potentially go on a surge against anybody in the country, which is what they've done this year. Hey guys, in December against Purdue, they started that game scalding hot. You can't make up for made shots. Like, you could talk strategy all you want, but this Alabama team, they just make shots. They're an elite shot making team. Then they're momentum based off it. That Purdue had to fight tooth and nail just to win the game, but came this close to. If they had gone on like a 3-minute cold spell, they would have lost the game. So I commend Alabama for challenging themselves in this era where some Big 12 teams and some other teams ran up the score and they're out of league. Alabama did not.
Hey, how many Big 12 teams made the Final Four? Fanta, do you know?
Yeah, that would be as many Final Fours as I've made.
Okay.
That would be. I mean, yeah, it's a big fat. No, that would be the amount of times that you interrupted Jeff Goodman this past weekend in Boston.
Oh, I honestly was ready to. Every time I would like be starting to make a point, you'd be like, "But no! But what about what I just said? But what about this thing that I just said 3 minutes ago talking about? You know what you're saying is wrong." Shut up.
Did you hear that Charleston hired a coach, Rob?
Oh, did they? Who'd they get? Luke Murray? Did he get hired?
Who'd they get, T.O.?
Chris Mack,
brother
and bold.
Tio, I want to ask you about I want your take on Alabama, but I also want you to talk a little bit about Brad Brunell. I know you're happy as hell for him for that run. Sucks
Yeah,
to the Final Four, but I mean, man, what a run! What a run for Clemson. They came a couple buckets away from making it to Phoenix, and you would have had to get to Phoenix if they made it to Phoenix.
Yeah, first Final Four for both teams. So, I mean, it would have been that either way. And the thing was I felt like I had to say it because, you know, Clemson fans get a little up in arms, even when they make the Elite Eight, because football fans, for some reason, don't compute basketball very well. You're going to lose games. Those things happen. However, here's the thing with Clemson. I thought they played really well against Alabama outside of offensive rebounds and free throw shooting. For Alabama, like they played well. they played well enough to beat about how many teams are in Division I? 350 something, not 362. They played well enough that day to beat 355 teams. They didn't play well enough to beat Alabama because Mark Sears was out of his mind. He was so good, and Charles Barkley praised Nick Pringle. That's all well and good. I know he was good on the offensive glass, and I love throwing some credit their way because a lot of his points were hustle points. That whole thing worked because Mark Sears was absolutely freaking elite in everything he did. And Clemson's a good defensive team. They rotate well. They scheme well. He was constantly putting pressure on them. And when you hit 7 threes in a row on top of some of those cross-court passes that he's making from one baseline to the opposite 45, like he was elite in every sense of the word. For a college basketball point guard, they didn't come better than Mark Sears on that day. He was awesome. Point blank, period. As far as Clemson is concerned, what a run. PJ Hall coming back. He's fought through injuries. He's done a lot of things throughout the course of his career. His number will be hanging up at Little John Coliseum. There's no question in my mind. There's no doubt. And let's be honest, there's a lot of depth. There was a lot of depth to that team this year, which is one of the reasons they made it so far. They did a nice job cultivating, getting Joe Girard in one year who hit 100 threes or more. Chase Hunter finally got going. If Chase Hunter was that Chase Hunter all season long, I think Clemson would have gotten a different seed. But everything, worked out the way it did. And that was a terrific coaching job. I thought they should have gotten to the tournament last year, the year before they did. It's kind of part of it at this point. Like I feel like Clemson's going to be in the mix every year from here on out because NIL's changed the game and Clemson has NIL to spend. So that I think they're going to be in the mix, for the long haul at this point, especially with Brownell as head coach. At this point, I'm not saying lifetime deal, but he's going to do it on his own anyway because this was year 14 and like he's just keeping on going. He likes Clemson. Yeah. And he's a hell of a coach. And I'm biased because I work for him. I get all that, but he deserves to be there. He's done a terrific job. He stayed out of the papers during the wrong times, and now he's winning on top of that. That guy needs to stay there for as long as he wants to stay there.
Yep. I will just say about Alabama, and the job that Nate Oates, and that was really well said about Clemson. I'm glad. I wanted you to be able to get your platform to hype up your guy.
Got to give him credit, man. Like he's done a
Yeah.
great job. He's put up with a lot of shit. Like people
Mhm.
just who don't know what they're talking about. They get bored, so they want something different. Like
You got a lot of people. You got a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about, man.
there's a lot of people. Well, football country. That's bottom line. It's we're in football country. I live in football country. It's part of it. They don't know what they're talking about.
Well, between that and the state of Iowa, a lot of people don't like it.
Dude, I can just knock out states one by one. Line them up. I'll knock them down.
Iowa, Alabama. What's next? Rhode Island.
I'm not mad at the entire state of Alabama.
Does anybody think it's like? I think I did think about this. Like we got, and it doesn't matter. I mean, maybe I'm the only idiot who thinks this way. But we got a team from North Carolina, a team from Connecticut, a team from Indiana, and a team from Alabama. Everybody's going to Arizona.
Come on.
We're all going across the nation. I mean,
how about the fact that Clemson plays Alabama in the finals of their region, and they play it in Los Angeles?
Of course. Oh, wow. Yeah, right, exactly.
And then Alabama's got to fly all the way back to Tuscaloosa just to fly all the way back to Phoenix. That's always going to be a good time.
Do they go back?
Yeah, you go back because the NCAA pays for your stuff.
Yep.
That's the one time of the year they pay for everything.
Yep. So I want to say about Nate Oates, right? Last year he's the number 1 overall seed. Yeah. Brandon Miller goes pro, which was expected. Noah Clowney goes pro, which wasn't necessarily expected. Charles Bediako heads to the G League, right? Which definitely was not something they thought was going to happen. Jaden Bradley transfers out of the program. Javon Quinterly leaves in like June. He loses his 3 assistants, his entire coaching staff. So he not only does he have to rebuild a roster with 2 pieces that were pretty important that decided to leave that we're not necessarily expecting, maybe even 3 of them. He's got to do it with a coaching staff that he's trying to rebuild at the same time. Brings in Austin Clonch, brings in Preston Murphy, brings in Ryan Pannone, goes out and gets Aaron Estrada, gets some of these freshmen, Jaron Stevenson coming in, gets Latrell Reitzel, rebuilds this roster and finds a way to be able to, despite playing a ridiculous non-conference slate, get his team going, win some games. They struggled a little bit towards the end of the year, but they found a way to make a run. I think that rebuilding that team is something that is underrated in terms of how they've been able to kind of make that happen. It's not, what he did was not easy, and I think it deserves quite a bit of credit. All right, T.O., you got 90 seconds here. What are you doing? Give me your game plan. How do you plan on beating UConn if you are Alabama?
Crush the offensive glass and shoot it as well as you did against Clemson. And you probably have to shoot it better.
Yes.
Like you have to light the world on fire from 3, and you're going to have to find them early in the clock. And the problem with that is you find them early in the clock, you're going to have to go back down on the other end and guard for 28 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So like and that's part of Nate Oates' strategy. It's like, hey, let's find something in the first 10 seconds or 8 seconds or whatever his analytics say. And then we're going to try to force long possessions on the other end. The problem is those long possessions on the other end are exactly where UConn loves to be. So I'm not saying Alabama can't beat them. I'm saying it will be extremely difficult. And I think they have to hit anywhere between 19 and 26 threes to beat them.
I mean,
19 and 26 threes. They have to light the world on fire to beat them.
No, I said before, I think it's got it like they probably have to go like 22 for 50, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know what they're getting around the bucket. Like I don't think that they have the pieces to get Clingan in foul trouble. I think that look, everything Oates wants to do is at the rim or beyond the 3-point line, right? And I think we're gonna have to get a lot from beyond the 3-point line. I think you need like 22 for 50. I think you're gonna have to take advantage of it. Like get out and transition, get out and run. And look, what Randolph said last night is he would just play zone if he's Nate Oates. He would go 2-3 zone, and he would hope that they can't figure out how to play against it.
Nobody's done. Very few have tried to do that. Somebody said to me the other day that Illinois should have tried something before the game. Just you got to try something totally different. I mean, you have to. How do you break? How do you break somebody that's been perfect? You got to get them to blink. But even when they blink, like Tristan Newton finally blinked, it ain't happening. Mike, hey, Mike, you're betting Bama ML in the chat, Michael, I'll give you my Venmo. Okay, you can help buy us a round of drinks this week. It's not happening. This is
Yeah.
the best team in the sport. It ain't happening Saturday. It ain't happening Monday. I'm excited to talk about it. We'll preview it, but let's not fool ourselves.
All right, we
Let's not
gotta.
fool ourselves. Connecticut is going to win the national championship like I'm going to house some steak fajitas in Phoenix.
There you go. Listen, by now you guys have surely heard about the Autograph app founded by Tom Brady that is going to disrupt the way fans consume content. Here's how it works. All the podcasters, bloggers, and digital creators covering the team have their content sent to that team's page in Autograph. And instead of having to bounce back from site to site or trying to navigate the only safe for workspaces left on Twitter, you just scroll through Autograph. This isn't a hard sell. This is the truth. I'm a UConn fan. I use the Autograph app to keep up with the writers I read and the pods that I listen to. And here's the best part. Every piece of content you consume gives you more reward points. The more you get, the more chances you have to win things like discounted tickets to game. They gave away a whole bunch of tickets and some really cool like autographed stuff over the course of the last weekend. So one last thing I will add, we've partnered with the Autograph the Autograph app to donate $1 to the V Foundation every time someone downloads the app and uses the code F68 with a minimum of $2,500 getting donated. The app is free, so go download using the code F68 and help us raise some money and give Autograph a try. I promise you it will be worth it. NC State is in the Final Four. TO, hold on.
I don't want an ISO for this.
Got to put on my DJ Burns shades. NC
Those
State's
fit
in
too
the
good.
Final Four. They take down Duke. Kevin
Yeah.
Keats is dancing. Kevin Keats is still here. Kevin Keats is unkillable. And now they get
Kevin Keats is a winner.
Yes. No, you know who's a winner?
Kevin Keats.
Purdue.
He said it in his
Purdue.
own press conference.
Did you guys hear Zach Edey in the post-game interview? Did you hear what he said? He said, "We're fucking winners." That's what he said. He said, "We're fucking winners." I love Zach Edey, by the way. The dude is so freaking competitive. It's awesome. I love that guy. All right, let's just talk real quick. NC State, what do they have to do, Terrence, to take down the big bad Boilermakers of Purdue?
You know what? The magic needs to just keep happening. The only thing is no rotations are going to be had. DJ Burns is going to have to score over 7.5. And I think Purdue just sticks because I think they believe that Zach Edey is going to be able to just stay there in front of him. DJ Burns is going to have a great game. And on top of that, Horn has to play well as well. It's going to be hard. This one's going to be harder than anything else because Purdue's strength is NC State's strength, and it's the front court. So this one will be a little bit. Dude, take off those sunglasses. What is wrong with you? No, I just think it's gonna be hard. But congrats to NC State. I didn't pick them this last game. I thought Duke would win. I thought they'd be able to stretch them out. They're just tough. It's just a lot of toughness on this NC State team. I'm happy for them because I like
ask you guys about this. Like, but before I do want to talk about the Duke thing here because I feel like this one's going to stick with Shire a little bit. You know, one of the questions that we had was the toughness of Duke, and I don't think it's just like physical toughness. I think it was up here as well. They kind of gave that thing away down the stretch. Like, I understand NC State's tough defensively. I understand they're going to try to force you to turn the ball over. I understand that they have perimeter defenders that make life hell for people, but I just don't understand how you have three guards as good as Jared McCain, Jeremy Roach, and Tyrese Proctor in theory are, and struggle the way they struggled offensively in the second half. I think that this one sticks with John Shire for a little bit.
It's hard to knock down shots when the balls are inflated to the point of when you bounce them, they can go to the moon. Like, and here's the thing: if you're a jump shooting team, you're going to have trouble. Outside of Alabama, who went nuts, but like it's tough, man. You got to get buckets around the basket in the tournament, and there's a lot of reasons, not just the basketball being overinflated, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you got to find ways to get buckets around the rim, and Duke just didn't get enough of them. And you know, as far as the toughness thing is concerned, those kids are tough, obviously, or they wouldn't be playing at Duke. I get all that, but I don't know. There's something to be said about toughness after Filipowski flopped his way out of Winston-Salem and then made a big deal, and it was windmilling 4 days later. Look, ever since then, it just kind of jaded it for me. It doesn't really have a ton to do after that.
Wow.
Am I wrong in saying that? I think he ruined the reputation of everybody with Duke right there, just for that bullshit.
Well, to me, the moment that the game changed was with 12:41 on the clock. And Filipowski hits an AM1. And at that point, Duke goes up 38-36. Mohamed Diarra has 4 fouls. DJ Burns has 3. So Kevin Keats says, I got to play Burns. Burns proceeds to score half the points on a 17-4 run. That was toughness. And at the end of the day, they have 2 DJs, okay? And Duke had none. DJ Burns and DJ Horn were absolutely terrific and just willed it. But defensively, NC State's not getting enough credit for what they've done in this tournament. You hold Marquette to 4 for 31. Did Marquette miss some open looks? Yes. But Terrence, I don't know if you agree or disagree. Sometimes great shooters might be open, but might miss a shot because they're still having to work a lot to get to that shot. So you could get an open look, but you still could be fairly well defended because it's really hard to get to that point. And I just feel as though that North Carolina State's perimeter of Horn and Morcell and then what they're getting in the interior, obviously from Burns, and then Diarra, even though Diarra didn't have a great offensive game yesterday, he still gives them so many spark plays. I mean, this guy,
He's a hustle guy.
What's that?
Hustle guy.
It's crazy that he had 5 double-figure performances out of his first 29 games. And he's got 5 in the last 7 on this crazy run. So good for Kevin Keats, man. Great for the Wolfpack. And it just, nobody had this. I mean, if you had them in the Final Four, we'll take the lottery numbers from you tonight, or congratulations to your dog who picked the right treats 4 times for them to get to the Final Four. It's amazing. And it is the latest evidence, Rob, that college basketball's postseason is the most inclusive because NC State got included. They had to win the ACC tournament. Mm-hmm. They did it, and now they're standing here.
Yep. And Michael O'Connell's he's hit some big shots throughout this, 10-game run, 9-game run. He's hit some monster shots. He's been a big portion. And you alluded to the perimeter. Those guys defend. Like DJ Horn defends. Casey Morcell really defends. And O'Connell has been big in moments. It's what a fun – and it's a different guy, it seems like, every single game that just kind of takes over besides DJ Burns. DJ Burns is a constant, and then there's always 1 or 2 guys else that just kind of go out of their mind. Even Ben Middlebrooks, who, guys, I'm going to be honest with you, at Clemson couldn't score with a pencil. And he's had some games where he's looked really good. I think he had 21 earlier this season, or earlier in this 9-game run, to where it's like, where did that come from? Well, they have talent on that team, and somebody different seemingly every day.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, we've been here for about an hour. I want to let you guys know that if you are going to Phoenix, we will be at Huss Brewing on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. We'll be there 4 to 7 local time. It'll be 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. We will be streaming. We will be broadcasting. You can find all that stuff right here on YouTube. I believe it'll also be on the Stadium app. You can hear it on SiriusXM as well. And then on Saturday and Monday, we'll be doing pregame shows from the BetMGM Sportsbook that is connected to the stadium out there in Glendale. And obviously, we will be doing post-game shows live from the court. All of that will be on YouTube as well. The times will be TBD. I'm not sure exactly when we're going to get in there for the pregame yet. It'll probably start about 2 hours before the tip-off. And post-game will just kind of be, it's going to depend on when things end. But I will be out there. Finta will be out there. We're going to keep trying to convince Terrence Oglesby to find a way to make his way out there. Just call in sick, man. You got sick days at your job. Everyone's got sick days. We'll keep leaning on him. If he gets, how about this? If he gets 300 people tweeting at him that says, T.O., quit your job, then maybe we'll find a way to be able to get him to come out. So tweet at him and say, T.O., quit your job. But listen, it's going to be an awesome week in Phoenix. I can't wait. Fanta, we just got a $4.99 super chat to donate to the Fanta Fajita Fund. I'm fired up. Gentlemen, we will see you guys.